I'd like to welcome everyone, both in the room and live streaming, to the April 7 edition of the Infrastructural Services Committee, Invercargill City Council. So we're going to start with, we've got some Zoom attendees, and they are Councillor Abbott, possibly Councillor Munsden later, but I've got her down as an apology. His Worship the Mayor may be zooming in, maybe. Right, and now to apologies. I do have one for Councillor Munsden for the start of the meeting. She's unfortunately travelling at the moment, so I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Second. Thank you. Councillor Soper. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. That is moved. Right, we're going to move on now to, we have a public forum, and we have Dr. Marcin Lipski to speak to us in regards to affordable housing. Welcome, Marcin.
Thank you. Kia ora tātou. Before I start, because I'll be speaking potentially in the near future on other aspects to the council on...
Oh, just sorry to interrupt, you have 5 minutes.
I am aware. I just want to point out that I hope that a trust in the council being able to separate the problem from the person, and it's not going to influence my future speaking. As you can see from the material that I have provided, hopefully there should be a graphic. I don't actually know how exactly to start this. I should have a strong start, but as a young person, you might feel at the end of my 5 minutes frustrated or angry, but I'm rather extremely depressed by the fact that it's impossible to buy a property as a young person nowadays, and that there's nothing in the whole system, including the council, the banks, and anyone really, that provides help and support for, I call them home house buyers, not first home buyers, because the word first home buyers implicates I'll be investing in it. As you see from the material, buying property has a entry cost. The entry cost is about $500,000 to $600,000. The average price doesn't mean anything because the average price includes small properties, sections in the town consisting of old houses that are moldy, shouldn't be really actually used. They're going to fall apart and have a high cost, and are not environmentally friendly or have a small footprint. Yet, there is affordable housing that exists. Whatever the government has proposed recently and changes to taxes or percentages is not going to fix the problem that there's people out there who cannot afford those $500,000 to $600,000. There's people who can maybe afford a house for $200,000 or $300,000. And those houses exist. Those houses are tiny houses, those houses are kit houses, modular houses, they all exist. Yet, the banks are not gonna mortgage it, literally. Yet, the council doesn't even allow, for example, me building a garage and living in a garage sleep out. And that's just depressing. The fact that there's solutions out there. People talk about affordable housing, yet no one seems to want to actually do something about it, to allow these solutions to exist, to be actually built. And how is someone remotely possibly able to invest $500,000 to $600,000 on a small property? It's actually easier for me to go out there and buy an old section, small section of an old house, and the bank will just hand me any money I want. Whereas if I want to buy a section of any size, put a environmentally friendly, new tiny home, kitty home, modular home on it, I'm not going to get a single cent. They're actually that bad, they're going to ask me up to 50%. SBS, the great SBS, is asking up to 50% of deposit on a land-only mortgage. So if I wanted to actually pay for my land myself for the small section, slightly outside of the city, and then, mortgage the house, I can't do that. So from my point of view, you know that sooner or later, tiny houses, kit houses, will be all allowed to build. So rather than waiting for another council, another part of New Zealand to allow this, or another part of the world really, I'm asking you very kindly, please act on that. please actually do something about affordable housing, because you have the power to do so. You have the power to help young people to build cool, affordable, nice, warm, high-tech, modern houses. Because right now it's just depressing. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open up the floor now for questions. First, we have Councillor Ludlow.
Thanks, Chairman. I'll, through you, ask for clarification from maybe Darren to see whether, and I'm pretty sure there's nothing in the district plan that prevents tiny houses from being constructed. Can I just seek some clarification on that?
Darren, are you able to comment on that?
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Lobo. Through you, Chair.
Yep.
Correct, the district plan allows for the building of small houses. It would be interesting to understand, I think, what the concept of the small houses looks like. Is it one further off or multiple buildings further off? But obviously more than happy to work with anyone who's wanting to build and progress in the district.
If I might add on this further, that has nothing to do with the council, but the bank also refuses to provide a mortgage if there isn't water, energy, and sewage provided. So if I want to go off grid, if I want to actually be modern, environmentally friendly, and have my own sewage tank, if I want to have solar, if I want to have, power from that, I'm actually not going to get a mortgage. Independent. It doesn't matter what I build.
Can we just keep it to what council can do rather than what the financial world is doing? Yeah. Nigel, Councillor Scott.
Oh, Marston, thank you for your passion. I think it's fantastic a young person's come in and addressed what is obviously a massive issue for young people. I have 2 young daughters also in the same situation, and a personal one, but understand your passion and understand where it's at. There are models worldwide that have gone into modular housing and so on. It's been very successful, along with the environmentally friendly aspect as well. So I guess it's about the opportunity of taking a leap forward. And have you got any further suggestions in the sense, or how you might approach it, given our situation in the sense of a council? It's always good because you've obviously thought about it.
I just wonder why these restrictions are so tight. If I, as a young person, commit to a up to 30-year-old mortgage and put myself in this position where I am actually indebting myself for half of my life, and I own technically the land after half the time, because I don't really own it until I paid 50% off, right? Why can I not build what I want on the land? Like, I know that's a very leisurely approach and it takes all restrictions over, but I think it should be approached from the other side. If someone owns this piece of land by high risk, high commitment, if I want to live in my garage, why is the council setting the living standard? That's my question. It's the reverse question. I know it doesn't answer your question, Nigel, but I think just giving more freedom and allowing people to build on the land what they want.
Darren, would you like to comment on the living standard, sort of a health aspect and stuff, regulations? Yeah.
Sure, and again, through the Chair. So council is tasked with ensuring. Thank you. Council is tasked with ensuring that houses are built to code, and the code is set through legislation, through central government, administered through the Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that those standards are adhered to. Again, what you will find here in Invercargill is that we're very progressive in our approach to administering the legislation, the district plan and the building code. And we're more than happy to work with any willing homeowners, home buyers, first home buyers who are wanting to explore what opportunities are out there for them.
So that obviously applies to the building code and the resource management code, not banking.
That is correct, yet tiny houses are consented. They build it on consented legislation. Kid homes, most of them have NZ consent. And yet it's not that actually easy, as you have pointed it out, to build it. Because even when I went to Versatile, which was the only one who I was recommended, I know, by banks to, that's not council problem. They even instantly said, no, we're not going to build your sleep out house or barn house because it's very hard to get through council.
Okay, Councillor Ludlow, then Councillor.
Through you, Chair, can I just check with possibly Darren as to whether or not, if somebody is building on a property at which it's possible to be connected to water and sewerage, even though they don't, there is still a charge that applies. But if they are building on a property to which there are no services, then the builder would surely just be required to show proof of an effective a sewage treatment system on site.
Again, through you, Chair, correct. So the district plan outlines what the conditions are and how they are to be met. If the solution is acceptable, more than happy to work through that. But we simply can't just let any solution, whether it's certified or uncertified, be put in place without consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask Dr. Lipsky a similar question to do with the sewage septic tank type regulations, which command a certain acreage for disposal of some of the effluent. And I wonder if any of these economical houses that you talk about, I've often read them in magazines. I'm sure you have studied them extensively. Some of them may be more expensive even to buy to build with the composting systems and the eco regulations.
No.
No, that's the
No way. No way. Like, and
it would depend perhaps on the size. But I was asking.
Yeah. Yes.
I was moving. The question I was going to ask is very similar to Councillor Ludlow's and the response you've already had. But thank you.
Yeah, like for example, in sewage, I don't have the numbers, but property in Omaui, about 5 hectares, I had to get a cable for electricity, 500 meters. Just the cable is $90,000. So I'm pretty much, if I want to do that, I'm building infrastructure for the council. And excuse me, but if the alternative of solar is around $30,000, and that's not considered, that's just a cable, the $90,000, I have to pay another 15 plus 15 to 20,000 for a transformer on a pole closer to a street or something like that. So it's about 100 grand to connect myself to central electricity services. Again, this does not sewage, doesn't answer this question particularly, but I'm very much put off of going that way if that's the cost for electricity.
Point of clarification, Chair, electricity connections are not council infrastructure.
Correct. They are not council infrastructure. Right. Councillor Skell, I'm going to be the last one here because we've exceeded the 10 minutes. Councillor Skell.
Thank you, through you, Chair. It's very concerning to have a young man come in and tell us he's depressed. And this young man I know does a lot in our community. So for him to come into this arena and tell us that, that's admirable, to say the least. And I accept we can't fix the banks, at all. That's not our issue.
I understand.
And it's really encouraging to hear Darren to say that our council, this council, is exceptionally positive around all solutions, and solutions driven around housing and what we can and what we can't do. And so there's manoeuvrability around all that. I think what we need to be able to do, though, is to give you some hope, because if we haven't got a hope, we might as well pack up the bag and the toolkit. There's people living in all sorts of things worldwide. They're living in containers, they're living in whatever around the world. There's many, many, many examples. So it would be unjust for this council just to dismiss what you've presented today. Somehow, between us, whatever, we need to think outside the square, and we need to sit down and see if it's a generic feeling across our young people that it's become so difficult, and see what, and if indeed there is anything we can do as a council to help. So plea to the rest of the councillors, let's not dismiss this. It's actually a relatively important point.
Okay, so I'm going to...
question.
One, okay.
Just relax. Go.
Councillor Crackett, last one.
Just
Sorry. Thank you. It's just, you know, like as a young person myself, sitting here listening to what you've had to say, Dr. Lipsky, I'm also a little bit gutted that Councillor Edmondson isn't here because this is right up her alley.
Yeah.
She's very involved in building regulation and regulatory, and the district plan has been super involved in housing with the Southern Housing Action Forum. I think it's forum, yeah. And I also know personally quite a few people in the city boundary that have tiny homes and have successfully built tiny homes that are living off grid. And I think, off the top of my memory, the way that they kind of got around, well, I say got around this, they still are very excellent standards to the building code, little tiny homes, but they had them on they're movable so that they can, you know, plumb them in, they can wire them up, they can, you know, get services listed and into the council networks for reticulation, water reticulation and sewage and such, but they're also on a trailer, so they're movable. Yes. And they you know, so they sort of, so they're like Darren has said, I'd like to think that the city is progressive and that those sort of things, you know, can be achieved if you can find a way. Like, unfortunately we can't fix it, but to finance it is, I think, might be the challenging issue.
I know that's not this issue, that's just a joke.
Okay.
I know that's not supposed to be said here, but
Yeah.
from that perspective, it's a joke. But it would be lovely if I didn't need to go around.
Yes.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcel, for coming in. Okay, right, we're going to move on to interest register that remains updatable at any time for anyone, so I haven't had any additions to that. We'll go now to the minutes of the Infrastructure Services Committee held Tuesday, 2nd of March. Can I please have someone move that those minutes be received? Thank you, Councillor Scott. Seconded, Councillor Crackett. I'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
And that's carried. Now we move to the minutes of the Extraordinary Infrastructural Services Committee held Monday, 29th of March. Can I have someone move? That be received. Thank you, Councillor Soper. Seconded, Councillor Crackett. Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Now we're going to move now to temporary road closures, and we have Mr. Pearson. Russell, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is a report that seeks to identify a number of temporary road closures for our city streets. They are based around, obviously, the Anzac Parade and some work we plan on the innovative streets to activate the inner city, and for a closure for Gala Street. The legislation requires us to actually seek council approval for those because it's of an event status.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 recommendations in front of us to get this through, but I'm going to open it up now for any comments.
Happy to move the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lillo.
Happy to second them, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Soper. So no further discussion. We'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Thank you, Russell. Next item is the Kew Park Reserve classification. And welcome, Caroline.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. This is a procedural report to allow the resolution from a paper that we brought to you last September, and surround the request to move from the adjoining landowner, the exchange the land located at Ellis Road, part of Kew Park, Macquarie Street, for the purpose of developing mixed model residential housing at Kew Park. And what we found is the first step is to move this land, classify it as a reserve, and to then progress to a land exchange.
Thank you for that. Okay, any comments regarding this? It seems pretty straightforward.
I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Kett.
Thank you. It doesn't actually say here, but is it going to close one entranceway up and open another? Or there'll be dual entrances to this block of land? One from Ellis Road and the other from Macquarie Street?
Do you have a chat with Leslie on that one, please?
Through you, Chair. Yes, the proposal is to open 2 entrances into the new subdivision.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor Crackett and then Councillor Sober.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the second time we've had a report on this piece of land. Previously, it wasn't picked up that we needed to have the classifications switched over or such. So I'm happy with this explanation and for us to continue with basically giving effect to the first resolution we've made.
Thank you. Councillor Soper.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I was just going to comment in light of what our submitter has said and noting that this is a future mixed model residential development which Council has supported on a significant piece of land. This may be indeed that part of the mixed model may tie in very nicely with what the submitter has talked about today. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? In that case, can I have someone please move the recommendations? Thank you, Councillor Ludlow, seconded Councillor Lewis. I'm going to put the 2 recommendations there. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The recommendations carried. Thank you. We now have the activity report, and who would like to? Anyone want to speak to that? Aaron? Oh, he's doing it. Yeah.
Cool. No worries at all. So, Chair and Councillors, I'll take the report as read and open the floor to any questions on the content.
Okay, Councillor Ludlow.
Thanks, Chair. Through you, if we could pass on feedback under your capital projects, the Felwick Gates was opened, and Councillor Skelton, myself and his worship were there the morning that they were opened. You know, we took a reasonable degree of feedback during the construction of that, and I think staff should be congratulated on the job that's been done, and certainly there's been a lot of positive feedback that we've heard since. Additionally, may I commend the staff for their engagement in the pilot play activation project that they've done in partnership with Healthy Families as well. Again, it's another one of those innovative things that it's really pleased to see council taking a leadership role in. So thanks for that.
Any other questions?
Councillor Sober.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to remark on the parks community engagement and say that that's been noticed and commented on in the community, and it is great. Our parks has a tradition of that sort of community engagement, and I think good on you for continuing to engage in some of the same ways, but also new and innovative ways.
Okay. No other discussion on the activity report?
Happy to move it's received.
Thank you, Councillor Ludlow.
Second that.
Seconded Councillor Soper. I'm going to put the motion that it be received. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Now, there's no urgent business. Before we go into public exclude, I just want to say there's a short workshop after public excluded to do with our continuing discussion on waste services and stuff. So that's directly after public excluded. Right, I'll move that we now go into public excluded for the reasons of confirmation of the minutes and the land disposal 515 Bluff Highway.
Second.
Seconded Councillor Kett. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you, members of the public.